Replace sewer. So just a couple minutes. Okay, sure. Don't look at me like that.
I'm not looking anyway. I'm not doing it.
Who's your contractor?
All right, so who needs this now? Amy?
Helmut? Which one? Trey, okay. Good. I can't speak for price or availability, but we'll do the
He felt confident.
Oh, yeah. We paid him a lot of money.
Yeah, okay, so
I would pay him again.
I just have a couple questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Are we all ready? Is it running yet? All right, if everyone could take their seats, please.
Oh, yeah. 10 o'clock here, and then we're going to go there.
I'd like to call the Ravenna Committee of the Whole meeting for August 24th to order. We have most of our committee here, but could we get a motion to excuse Mr. Moskin?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, first item on the agenda is an approval of Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of July 20th, 2026. Does anybody have any modifications, corrections, additions to those minutes before you? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Everyone in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. The next item is an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds for the cold storage building on Spruce Street. This is from Public Health and Safety. Ms. Michael?
Yes, this is for the Spruce Street extension that we had talked about for the new fire truck. And when the appropriations came in, or the bids came in, they came back much higher than what was budgeted. So the next option we decided to go with was a steel structure frame, which Mr. Finney feels will last longer than we think it's going to last, and it will do the job adequately. And at this point, that's the best option instead of spending the additional funds when, we're not even sure that the next bid would even be that amount. So this is what the committee agreed upon as well.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Would you like to place this in the consent agenda? Doesn't sound like it.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I can see.
Is everyone comfortable with putting it in the consent agenda?
I am.
Yes.
Is anybody opposed to putting it in the consent agenda? Okay, well, for now at least, we will add it to the consent agenda. The next item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an MOU with the Ohio Department of Medicaid. Also from Public Health and Safety, Ms. Michael?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Tammy to explain more in detail.
Yes, this is a new program that Ohio Department of Medicaid is helping. All of our ambulance runs they're all billed to Medicaid, and this will help us draw some federal funds down to the state level, which will then be allocated to us and provide us with some more income for our ambulance runs. It's just a formality to sign the MOU for getting into the plan.
Anybody have any questions about this item?
I'm good to move it forward.
Okay,
Personally.
what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Consent.
Consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Next item is an ordinance creating guidelines for e-bikes and scooters. This is from Streets and Sidewalks. Mr. Harper.
Yeah, so last week in committee, we decided why we trudged through the ordinance and tried to update our e-bike and bicycle ordinance. We wanted to expedite a helmet law, get that into effect as quick as possible. So Ohio e-bike helmet law only requires Class 3 operators to wear a helmet. Excuse me. But what this committee is proposing, I had passed out in front of you, and I'll just read it real quick. So included with our ordinance, we'd like to add, all operators and passengers under 18 years of age must wear a compliant helmet that is properly fitted and fastened while operating or riding an electronic bike that is considered standard Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Compliant helmet is one that's approved by DOT, Department of Transportation, for certain, for crash ratings. So that's what compliant means. That's what we're proposing at this time.
So for a little clarification, I was just looking through our chapter on e-bikes, which is 444.12, and it looks like under D2, we do have a requirement only for Class 3 electric bikes, and it says, it's D1, no person under wait a second. No, I'm sorry, it's D2. No person shall operate or be a passenger on a Class 3 electric bicycle unless the person is wearing a protective helmet that meets the standards established by the Consumer Product Safety Commission or the American Society for Testing and Materials. So we can either just add Class 1 and 2, or we could replace that sentence with what Mr. Harper is proposing. Now,
But that
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But that paragraph, the proposal is for only 18 and under.
Right,
This D2 covers everyone on a Class 3.
So the
So if you eliminated that,
Right.
you would eliminate the requirement that they have a helmet,
Yes.
which we want to maintain, I believe.
Well, I think that's the question
Okay.
on the table. Mr. Harper is proposing just
For-
minors.
For the Class 3, anybody over 18 or over, with this new language, you're correct, would not have to wear one. If you, in the state of Ohio, if you go take your motorcycles class and take a test, you're required to wear it, I believe, the first, is it year, 2 years? The first year, and then after that, it's at your discretion. Not that, say that's the right way to go, but that's how the state looks at motorcycles.
There's no license that go along, so it'd be kind of hard to enforce to know if they're on, probation or not, because there's no license to follow up on with an e-bike or a scooter, so that would be kind of hard to enforce. So I would say the under 18, it's a requirement, and after 18, that would be at their own risk, I would believe, because it doesn't go as fast as a motorcycle. And, if the motorcycle is only in Ohio, if it's probationary period, well, again, you don't get a license, so how can you call an e-bike or scooter a probationary period? So that would be my input on this.
So are you talking about just 1 and 2? Because according to the way our ordinance reads, no person shall operate or be a passenger on a 3 unless they're wearing a helmet. So as of this right now, the way this reads, everyone in Class 3 should already be wearing helmets.
I mean, it's very difficult to tell.
Right.
Whether it's 1, 2, or 3. The big thing will be the speed
Yeah.
that they can achieve. Class 3 is the fastest one, and it can reach speeds of 28 miles per hour before the motor's supposed to disengage.
I guess the question on the table is, we want to loosen up at least the Class 3 rider or operator by allowing them not to have to wear a helmet.
I think we should leave it the way that it is in our ordinance already and then just add 1 and 2 in there.
That would keep the requirement for everyone, if that's what council wants.
That's what
So, okay, well,
I guess we need more discussion.
well, I
on
think
this.
it'd be helpful to hear from other council members before we proceed, which direction do we want to go?
I guess my thought is we're trying to protect mainly minors. Adults should at that point have enough common sense to wear them.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when the law even states that they have to wear them, they don't. So we could leave it in ordinance. We could adjust the proposed addition, take out the age requirement, cover all 3 Class E bikes, so that everybody has to, if you're on an e-bike, you have to wear a helmet. So there's some things we can change.
Yeah, I also have some concerns for the compliant helmet, like just doing some precursory research for the Department of Transportation, and it looks like at this base level, the only thing I'm seeing is that they regulate motorcycle helmets, but not other classifications, like a bicycle helmet might not be at the same standards of a DOT certified. There's other Snell and certification methods too. So I think there should be some attention to, like, if we're requiring a DOT compliant helmet, that might have a prohibitive cost for a younger person with an e-bike as well. Safety is important, but is that standard commensurate with the necessity?
Most of these e-bikes are hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and I don't think we can put a price on a child's brain damage. I mean, if you're going to spend the money to purchase an e-bike, you dig a little bit deeper and buy that helmet that's going to protect your brain and skull, is my thought.
Yeah, so it's interesting, we have 3 different definitions here. I think the strongest one is already in our code, because it says established by the Consumer Product Safety Commission or the American Society for Testing and Materials. Those are specific standards. Now, you said DOT standards, I don't know what
Just
that
out of a comment from
Department of
reference.
Transportation, that's
Yeah,
it.
I know, but
Yeah.
that's another standard that's not
Yeah.
even listed here. And then what it says in the proposed code is simply compliant helmet, and I think that's a bit weak.
It's like compliant with what?
Right.
To be
it's-
specific,
Yeah. I think that needs to be a little bit more clarified. So, I mean, I would suggest we could keep the language we have, and I think we all agree we want to add Class 1 and Class 2, but now the question is, there's 2 questions. Do we want to provide a different standard than already is in there? And there's 2. There's, as I said, Consumer Product Safety Commission or the American Society for Testing and Materials. Do we want to add the Department of Transportation? And then the other question is whether or not we want to allow people who are not minors to go without wearing a helmet.
I think that would be a question about enforcement, since our chief is here, and also our fire captain, or our fire chief. That might be something that they both might want to put input on, seeing how both of you see the results of these, and with the enforcement, and with the effects if somebody wrecks. What kind of input would either one of you like to maybe put into this, since you're both listening to this conversation? Is there anything you would like to put in?
Right. Are we just talking about like fines or because?
Well, would it be hard to enforce as far as knowing what types of helmets, or, any part of our discussion that we're having up here? What is your thoughts about under 18, everybody, what is your thoughts?
I think they should be able to wear a helmet or should wear a helmet, anybody under 18. I'm not sure that we should be stopping people just to find out what kind of helmet they have on. We
Right.
would stop them for other reasons, but if they're pedaling a bike and it's an e-bike and they don't have the motor engaged, I don't think stopping to find them what kind of helmet they have would
Yeah.
fit a reasonable stop.
Yep, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, just for the purpose of what's in our language, I mean, obviously, you might not be able to tell visually what kind of helmet somebody's wearing, but if you stop them for some other reason and you notice the helmet is not up to par, you could investigate then. But what would your preference be, that we have specific standards like the Consumer Product Safety Commission and American Society for Testing and Materials, or leave that standard out?
There should be a standard.
So
Otherwise,
leaving,
They're gonna wear a milk crate on their head and call it a helmet. If you don't-
Football helmet.
yeah.
Or a colander.
So I think those two standards are pretty good. What, and maybe I missed it, but what is your thoughts about adults, that they don't necessarily have to wear a helmet? Or do you think everyone should have to wear a helmet?
Well, like, it's just like the old helmet laws for motorcycles. You may
Yep.
not agree with it, but you had to follow it. To tell an adult they have to wear a helmet on a e-bike as opposed to a motorcycle, it might be pushing the limit a little bit.
And just keep in mind, we already do for Class C, or Class C, Class E, Class 3. I'll get it right one of these times. We do require everyone, regardless of age, to wear a compliant helmet. So we would be freeing up that ability. But your suggestion is only minors.
I would be in favor of adding the DOT to what already
Okay.
exists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you could go overkill, have a motorcycle helmet that, you know, even like a full face one that would even protect the jawline, because like 15 to 20% of injuries can happen there too. I mean, is it overkill for an e-bike? Probably, but it would also be very safe. So I could see that.
Okay. Is that, I mean, people can think about it, and when this comes up, assuming this gets passed forward, we could always continue the debate if people want to do a little more research.
I'm also okay with.
But for now,
enforcing
if we put in
adults.
those three standards, is everyone okay with that?
What, Carmen?
I'm also okay with not enforcing it with adults, like that we
Only
make
for
sure
minors.
that
Right.
all three classes, that they have to wear one of the approved styles of helmets if they're under the age of 18.
I think that makes it clearer too to enforce.
Yeah.
Instead of like having to figure out, that's what I wanted to ask that, like, Class 1 and Class 2 don't have to, and this one does, it makes it really complicated and knowing what class to pull over and that kind of stuff. So that kind of makes sense.
Okay, so with those comments, I think I can create a new one for our next meeting to look at for approval.
Okay, any other comments?
I'd just like to get on the record that I'm in favor of continuing the language that we have on requiring Class 3s to adults to have a helmet. So,
Okay, like I said, people may change their mind before it comes up for a vote, but
yeah.
unless there's other comments, I'd like to ask if you'd like to pass this on for an ordinance.
Ordinance.
Ordinance
Ordinance.
is the pleasure of the committee.
And I will suggest we not put it in
Right?
the consent agenda because there may still be some discussion on this.
Agreed.
All right. So moving on, the next item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for the 2026 stormwater project. This is sponsored by Utilities. Mr. Moscom's not here tonight. Perhaps Mr. Finney can describe what we are trying to accomplish here?
This was the extension of the Jones Avenue storm line. The ditch across from the former GME and the bike trail is eroding, so we need to shore that up. And I have to find myself what the other project was. North Scranton Street, between Mechanic and Main Street. Install storm pipe and a couple catch basins. And that's using the storm revenue that we collect.
From the tax?
Yes, the storm, yes. I don't like to use the word tax, but in essence, that's what it is.
Okay. So a couple of projects on the west side.
Correct. Yes, 2 projects in Ward 1, 1 in Ward 2.
Anybody have any questions about this item? This is a one package thing, though, right?
That is correct.
Ordinance.
Hearing no questions, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
I'd like to place this in the consent agenda.
Consent?
All right, the next item is an ordinance redistricting wards within the city of Ravenna. This is from planning. Ms. Lodato.
Okay, so this one would just move this item. Well, we don't really have anything that we've agreed on for what would the redistricting look like. We don't have that proposal. We wanted to have the two public meetings sometime in September. I'm going to be honest with you, I started my school year 2 weeks ago, so I haven't even gotten a chance to reach out to the people on the committee and see a Saturday afternoon they would be okay with, and then one weekday evening. I think that's what I talked about the last time, to try to get people who could probably come after work, and then those people who are working second shift or maybe have a weekend day free, be able to meet those times. That's the other thing I was forgetting. I was trying to remember, what have I forgotten to do when it was that?
Well, if you pick a couple of dates, we can, there's a website, or the
Yeah,
library.
I looked at, Chelsea sent me the link. It's wide open.
Okay, good.
So there is a lot of availability there to be able to do that. And so in those public meetings, we would have the maps that the ad hoc committee has agreed to put forward, but also invite the public to get the tools to them to be able to generate maps of their own for discussion and get feedback. I don't really think it's ready for an ordinance yet, but.
Well, I mean, if your committee moved it on, otherwise it wouldn't be on our agenda.
Right.
So we can, just like with other issues where we string things out over multiple meetings,
Yeah.
at this point in time, we can move it on to an agenda for a first reading. Obviously, we won't have anything to approve. Or if the committee of the whole prefers, we could just stall it, put it on next month's committee of the whole agenda. If by then we've had those two meetings, maybe we're closer to putting it on a
I'm
regular.
interested in the public getting engaged with this, because some people that have been following this, there's a few people that reach out to me and said that they don't see any reason to do this at all, that it's not gonna make much of a difference.
We have to
and
do it.
I understand that, but I mean, it's just interesting, the variety of feedback that you get from something like this. So I think once the public gets involved, that it's gonna be, it's gonna be enlightening, that's for sure.
I think that we should wait, because we have nothing to even consider
Yeah.
or look at right now.
So do you want
it's
to push
not
it out
gonna-
to committee of the whole for next month?
Yes,
Is that the consensus of the committee?
yes.
Table.
Will we have something to look at prior to that day of the committee of the whole meeting? That's the
Yes.
only
Well-
concern that I would have. We need to at least have some time to look at those things, and then the public meetings then would be coming before or after that committee of the whole meeting in September.
Right, so the committee of the whole meeting in September is on the 21st. So we would have 3 weeks in September prior to the committee of the whole meeting to set up those two other public meetings.
I would say that at least one of them would probably take place before the next committee of the whole meeting. And then Professor Mapes, I don't have the tech ability to know how to put those maps out there. Because that's one thing people ask about. They want to see the maps that we had discussed in the ad hoc committee.
She's already printed those out, though.
Right, but I mean, for people to be able to access it online,
Oh,
I don't have any idea how to do that.
you have to go through the app, or the website.
So are they loaded onto the website where people can access them?
Yes, but it's confusing, because I created a map, and then I forgot how to get to it, so. She might have a way to, like, print it out as a PDF that
That's
it
what I
could.
mean, like if there's some way she can scan
Yeah,
it
you'd
and get
have
it
to
on
ask
as
her.
a file where people
Yeah.
can look at it that way, because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, you'd have to ask Professor
I tried to do it
Mapes.
from my phone where I saved it as a file and tried to access it again, and the link wouldn't work, so, but that's a user error, because actually, Tyler, you would probably be fantastic at trying to figure this out.
I was about to ask you, if you had time later, we can take a look. So.
Okay, Because that's what's important to me, is that people get a chance to look at this if they can't even make any of the meetings, or they feel like they want to be more prepared when we do have those open houses.
So I will say that the map I created, somehow I created it as a PNG file, so obviously it can be printed out as a PDF if, so yeah, it must be part of the website, but I did that back in April, so I don't remember how I did it. But I do think that can be done. So maybe we could even put it out on our website or something, the different, or at least links on a website.
Chelsea, what would work best for you? Would you know how to load PNG files onto the website?
I can help with that,
Okay, thank
too.
you.
Gotcha.
All right.
Okay, so unless I hear otherwise, we're just going to leave this on the agenda for the September Committee of the Whole meeting.
Yes. Because you're going to see in the next item where a bulk of my attention went the past 2 weeks.
Okay, so the next item is an ordinance ordinance addressing space requirements for multifamily units. Ms. Lodato.
Okay, so this is a bigger item. I hope everybody's ready to have some fun. Sorry. So one of the things I was tasked with when we moved this forward was just what sections of the code exactly would have to change in order to, make this a cogent piece of legislation. Well, to the best of my knowledge, Mr. Finney, am I obviously missing anything, or does it look like everything is there where it needs to be?
It appears that you have covered the bases. R3 and R2 do not allow multifamily, but
Right.
the other zoning is either permitted or conditionally permitted.
So, most of these things are, the first one, well, let's just go through this. There are some people that weren't here before on council, so we are looking at moving, the way that we have it listed now for multifamily housing is they just have to have a certain amount of square feet per unit, correct? Minus a basement.
Correct.
Okay. So this would move it to a bedroom model where an efficiency studio would require 450 square feet, a one-bedroom 550, a two-bedroom 750, a three-bedroom 950, and anything over 4 bedrooms, 1,100 square feet. So the question is, where did I come up with these numbers? So the way they configure this in Ohio is people can use the Ohio Building Code, which is kind of bare bones. It really just determines a place that somebody could look at it and say, sure, it's habitable, but is it livable? Does it have some type of quality of life in mind? So then there's the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, the OHFA. And so what's nice about configuring your square footage for multifamily based on this is that people who would like to purchase properties and turn them into multifamily housing or build them are going to be eligible for grants for low-income housing tax credits, which is going to attract those types of buyers. So why would we even want to do something like that? It's part of our 2050 Comprehensive Master Plan. We do have a affordable housing goal, but we also recognize that there's issues with the multifamily as it exists now. So this is kind of addressing that. It's kind of protecting housing value, but also helping us meet that comprehensive plan goal. So during that meeting, there was a few things that came up, and I think it's important to talk about those. So we talked about a kitchen. I think, Mr. Karish, you were the one who brought up about the kitchen maybe, and we had some comments and some input from the fire chief about some issues we've had as far as like what can go wrong when the only thing you can put a hot plate in a room and say that's a kitchen. So if you want to use that OHFA standard, they absolutely do have a very comprehensive description of what exactly is a kitchen. And I actually love this description because it really outlines what kind of appliances, sanitation, ventilation, and what kind of materials that you can use. So, and the other thing I really like about it is it requires universal design and accessibility alignment. So this means that when we go to add multifamily housing and affordable housing to the city, that it is going to be ADA compliant, that people are going to be able to move around in kitchens if they are in a wheelchair. I know that we had talked earlier in the year, Ms. Michael invited somebody that was talking about making this more of a senior-friendly city. And so I think if we're going to be looking more at that too for this city, that having a universal design requirement is going to help us to cover some of those bases too. So a lot of it has to do with like the appliance being able, if you're in a wheelchair, to be able to get it under certain surfaces. All right. I have not incorporated that into this. When I was asked what part of our code does the square footage affect, that's what this bigger packet is. So first of all, you have to do the proposal to begin with, which we already went over that. We don't need to say that it's part of the OHFA standards. Those are already there. It doesn't need to be explicitly outlined. Things like the setbacks and height regulations, those do not need to change. Those are fine where they are. And when I did some research of surrounding communities, Ravenna actually falls right in line with what other surrounding communities want in terms of height, although we do allow up to 70 feet, which was higher than some communities. Most community maxed out about 50 feet, but I mean, I'm not going to go cry and write home about that one. So where it would need to change would be, first of all, the R4, it would need to change, which is 1268.04, as it pertains to residential districts. So we would need to put those square feet dimensions in there when it comes to multifamily dwellings. All right, let me just go right down the line here. So we aren't changing anything. R4 also has language about single-family and two-family standards. I'm not doing anything with those. This is only for the multifamily housing standard. So Ravenna currently permits multifamily residential dwellings conditionally in R4 and has a 550 square foot multifamily minimum. So then R5 would be the next one.
Before you move on, so
Yes.
the minimum living square floor area per dwelling unit describes single-family, two-family, and then multifamily. Is the change you're proposing changing the multifamily to simply 550 square feet to the one-bedroom, two-bedroom examples you gave? I'm trying to visualize what change you just made to R4.
It's just under the multifamily dwelling, the multifamily dwelling units, which is the latter part of section 9.
Right.
We don't have any language there that has bedrooms with square
Right.
footage.
What
so
I'm saying
it's
is
adding that.
you're replacing the only thing it says is 550 square feet.
Right.
You're changing the 550 square feet to the one bedroom is whatever, two bedroom?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I,
Yes.
okay.
So that is, but it's not changing anything with the things written above it when it comes to single family and two family.
Right,
I
okay.
think it's pretty much the same thing that we have here in 1268.05, which is part of the R5 residential district. It's adding the square footage, it's a permitted use. So the funny thing about R6, and I feel like I put a note in here about this. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did.
All right, so we have it in our code, R6, but if you go to look on a map, we don't have R6 in our current or future land use. And not that that's a problem, because we do have this goal, like, because R6 is gonna be more, if we do put it in there, it would be more conducive to multifamily housing. It's just it's in our code, so I'd like to change it if it's in there, but we don't have R6 currently in our city. We don't have it anywhere, we don't have it identified on a future land use map. So it would just be simply changing that because. So 1268.07, this has to do with the commercial district C1, which is the one that has recently come up in Planning Commission. So again, it is just adding, all of this square footage for the different bedrooms. The rest of it is not, we don't change anything with the rest of it. 1268.08 Central Business District. So right now, the multifamily requires 400 square foot minimum. We would need to change it to 450 square feet. Because this one has more of a dense living space in our Central Business District. So that one I have highlighted would need to change to 450 square foot.
So you're saying still, again, to outline the bedrooms in that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but we would need, it's written there that says multifamily 400 square feet, so if we leave it in there, it's really
Yeah.
confusing when it has that outlined for the different square footage. So C2, 1268.02, heavy commercial district. It's the same thing pretty much for all of these, that we have to outline these changes. We have to delineate it because it currently doesn't exist in our code. But the rest of the sections of that code would remain unchanged.
And then are you also saying to put the language about the kitchen in all of those sections as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but I want to get to the kitchen after I get through
Okay.
this packet. I'll get to the kitchen.
Sorry.
And some other things. No, it's, believe me, this is,
Around all of it.
it's a lot, I know. All right, so we would also need to make a change to 1274.04, regulations pertaining to conditionally permissible uses. This would be residential uses in the C2 district. So I have the current language and what would need to change. It's just the addition of the word multifamily and dwelling. And then the minimum living floor area, instead of, we don't need to have it listed like we do in the other sections, we can just refer to it. So that's why it says requirements established in section 1268.09 D, section 9, or section D, part 9. So that's that first place where we have it all laid out here. So it's just referring back to that. All right, so I already have the thing about changing it to 450.
So I'm a little confused. I'm having trouble finding, you have 127404. T.
I think
I don't
this
even
is
have a
an addition.
127404.
It's right underneath.
No, I'm talking about in the code. I'm looking in the code, and I don't see in our
Is
code.
this where, I think I was talking to the law director once, and he was having an issue finding something I was talking about.
I mean, I'm looking at, there's a 147401 and 02, and that's it. I don't see a 1274, oh, I'm in the wrong chapter. Never mind.
I was gonna say, I know that my writing on my Post-it notes wasn't the best. Going through there.
There's a
On the
lot, you
bright
did a
side, I
lot.
did find 127404.
Well,
too.
this
So
is
it's
why
there.
this is like
But the-
taking up most of my brain space.
There's no T.
Yeah, you,
It
there's
is,
a
it's
lot
right there.
here.
It's residential uses in a C2 district. It's under number 15 from the S section under home occupations. It's right above adult motion pictures and bookstores.
I would. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the parking spaces for none of this changes either. So that's something, I'm sorry. It's in this, but I forgot to point that out, that's not something that I'm proposing a change to either. The planned unit developments, no changes. There's nothing that we really need to do there. 1274.04. So I thought this one is, and I'm sorry, like, I have looked at this so many times, I'm gonna confuse myself, but I do think that this had to do with the fact that what we already had in the code, the proposal is more cohesive when we have to outline bedrooms, types and size. That's already written. It says housing units by type and size of bedrooms per unit in each class. So we already have that in our current language. So actually changing it to reflect these OHFA standards is more cohesive with what's already written, because that's by bedroom. This must be amended with cluster developments. This is 1274.04 again. And I apologize if I left off numbers here. I do have the language, though. So it has to be changed if the proposed bedroom-based standards are intended to apply to residential cluster developments. So we would need to add that in if we want it to apply to cluster developments. So we have that there. It's all laid out. The proposal is down there with the efficiency 1 bedroom, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms plus. All right, off-street parking and loading, nothing changed with that. Okay, so here's this one, Chapter 1270, nonconforming uses. All right, so we need to address multifamily housing, which would be grandfathered in as existing and now non-compliant. So what this is saying is what's already built, what's already in existence, we cannot create, I'm not proposing that we go back and in any way demand that things be retroactively changed. So whatever's built and currently exists is there the way that it was approved according to our current code. So this, what I'm trying to say is that this proposal would only be for things that were new or if you're going to renovate to a certain degree. So that's the one thing that I wanted to keep in there.
Would it apply if the property changed hands and the owner had it?
So
Would
what?
they be under requirements?
So it's not under that, I said, so alteration, enlargement, or reconstruction, restoration, or change of a use of a non-conforming multifamily dwelling unit. So it doesn't have anything about changing hands.
Could we require it when it changes hands?
I think you would have trouble in the central business district
Yeah.
with those apartments above those stores. I mean, that's
them
gonna
are
be
big
hard
enough.
to
Yeah.
change with even with new ownership. I think they're really restricted on what they can and can't do.
I think where these changes are mostly gonna impact is gonna be people that are buying homes and turning it into multifamily housing. Because we really, I mean, how long have those buildings been there in the central business district? 150 years? I mean, we can't go back and ask people to reconfigure that if it changes hands. I see what you're saying, though, that for some people, when it changes hands, gives us an opportunity to maybe address some issues. Oh, okay. So based off of the kitchen discussion, since we really don't we have a very ambiguous definition of kitchen in our code, I started thinking if we base this on bedrooms, should we define a bedroom? Does that need to be defined? Well, I guess it does. So I do have proposed definition for a bedroom. A room within a dwelling unit that is designed, approved, and capable of use for sleeping purposes, and that satisfies applicable requirements of the Ohio Building Code, Residential Code of Ohio, the Fire Code, Housing Code, and other applicable laws and regulations. Number of units, and this is important for Mr. Finney, especially in Planning Commission. It should approve they should be approved, or not to be determined by the person who owns it. And think back to our helmet discussion. If you don't put it exactly, define it, and attach it to a standard, what a helmet is, maybe somebody would use a strainer or God knows what and say, hey, this is a helmet. Well, we might have the same problem with people who wish to buy a property and call it a multifamily housing, or call it a bedroom, and maybe it's a glorified closet.
Exactly.
Or it's a screened-in porch.
Right, so, right, exactly.
Or basement.
So this would tie it at least to some building code standard, which Mr. Finney, I don't have it here, but it's the same stuff. What is it, 70 square feet?
70 square feet? A window that opens to the outside? And I believe the ceiling height is 7 feet. It does not have to have a closet, not per Ohio Building Code. The ceiling height, I believe it's 7 feet.
That's part of the Ohio Building Code.
That is part of the Ohio Building Code.
Okay, so even
Yes.
though this references the Ohio Building Code, maybe if we just want to spell it out, but important to define what a bedroom is. And again, this is just like, and I know this is, it seems like a lot, but this is really to protect residents, protect people that will need to live in low-income housing, that they deserve to have fair, equitable, accessible housing, which our current code allows a lot of leeway for. The kitchen stuff, I don't even know where this would fit in, and just, maybe I'm just venting, or let me just express some frustration. I understand when I bring these things up to council, or things that we want to change, but being tasked with, okay, so as a council person, now I need to go through the code and I need to find every single section that needs to change. Like, and I'm just asking as a kind of newish council person, at what point is a law director compelled to get involved and say, this is, I take it from here, this is where it needs to change? Because what I'm paranoid about is that I've missed something. And then that keeps me going back through and flipping through pages again and saying, well, maybe it really does need to change here. And I don't have the expertise or anything to do that. So I just want to know from my council colleagues, when you go to do things like this, is it always going to be up to us to write those changes and find where in the code they're applicable? Or is there somebody that is compelled to work with us in the administration to do this?
I've always given my stuff to the law director. And anything
Okay.
that to me is their expertise. A lot of the stuff that comes, usually the department heads and then the law director, because that is their expertise. When we signed up for this, we're not professionals and and have the background of, law. At least a lot of us don't have law degrees. I know I don't. And, we can only do to the best of our ability. And that's why we rely on the department heads who are specialists in whatever we're doing, that, depending what committee we're on. Anything I do, I work with either Jake or Mark, and then usually they prepare a lot of this stuff. And then the law director, goes over all of the legal ends. So what you've done, you've written everything,
Well, I- but
and
I
you've
don't
done
know
it
if-
all.
But I don't know if I've done it correctly, so this is
Well,
going to have to go to the
so-
law director.
Yeah, it always does. Let me just clarify, not everything we do results in a change in our code.
And
That's,
I do
that's
have
its.
I have a legal question about that, by the way. So it is a proposal to the change in the code. Does this have to, and I can't remember where I read this in the code now, but it does say something about planning commission having a 30-day comment, a 30-day period or something, or is that a thing? Does this need to go to planning commission?
I don't know anything about that.
Okay.
That could be under certain provisions.
Yeah, maybe it was something I was reading and.
But just to clarify, I mean, I don't know that there's an expectation that if someone here, like we've had you just identified a laundry list of changes to our
Well, when you
code.
guys told me to go find everywhere in the code that this was going
Well,
to impact,
and
I
I
took
think
that
it,
seriously.
and I think it just illustrates that some things are a lot more complex than others.
Right.
Like, for the e-bike thing, I mean, it's a sentence, right? And I don't know that it's onerous, and I appreciate Mr. Harper taking on the responsibility to manipulate that code. But yeah, I think the answer is it depends, and that's never a good answer, but depends on the complexity. What you're trying to do, I think, may take some more time and effort, because the ideal is that I mean, this is helpful, but this can be very confusing, and I've been confused trying to follow it. What is normally expected in change to legislation is that you have the existing code, and then you kind of what we call redline it. You highlight what's added, you strike what's changed, so people can see visually what you're trying to do.
Okay, so am I supposed to be providing the red line?
Again, depending upon the complexity, you certainly, I think, can, but another option would be to meet with the law director and kind of do what you already did. Explain what changes you want, and then he would go in and make the specific changes to the code. But you can do it yourself, too. There's no
don't want
strict.
to, though.
Oh, that's fine. Nobody's saying you have to. The only advice I might have, though, is you've got a lot of different areas
Yeah.
which would require a lot of different
lot.
ordinances. We can't just create one ordinance to make all these changes. They have to be.
I'm gathering that.
Yeah, so this may take a lot more time than you initially planned on.
And that's okay.
And Bob, have you looked at any of this stuff that she's, prior to this?
Yes.
He got pictures of Post-it notes I was sending with, hey, is this thing something that needs to change? Is this one okay?
But overall, Carmen, you've done the legwork, and it's just cleaning it up for the ordinance form.
Yeah.
As Rob
So
said,
at this point-
What I would do is what I've done is I copy the ordinance, paste it in a Word document, and I strike out a word and I add a new bolded word, as in remove and replace, that sort of thing.
Well, they'll have to change things, because honestly, as I go back to it, I don't remember what fonts I used. I just,
Well, we don't
Well,
have
you
to
did
worry
a good
about
job.
that.
And I would just send what you've sent, like
law
what you've done, to the law director and let him
well, I'm probably
and
gonna have to meet
Esther
with
take
him,
it over.
so I don't give him, I've had a migraine since Friday, just like, you know.
And when it comes to planning commission, we do not have a meeting tomorrow night. Most
Right.
likely, we will, in September, we'll discuss these proposed changes if they're not already in effect.
So just so the people know, like on council, when we went to the planning commission meeting, they wanted some type of an answer or commitment as to when we were gonna have this all done by. And I was like, I can tell you what my timeline is of when it's gonna be proposed, but I can't guarantee, because even since we brought it up in committee, when you brought it up about the kitchen, and it got me to thinking too, like about the bedroom, if we're gonna base this on bedrooms, and honestly, I know, considering that right now, the only thing that it says for a kitchen for us as it stands is any space used for food preparation. That is so vague. I mean, that.
Could be
does-
somebody's bed.
Right. So.
Bathtub.
I am thinking in mind what the fire chief talked about too, in terms of like, there's a lot of, I think if, from this point forward, if multifamily housing were compelled to include kitchens, that had this description and these requirements, that it would also be something that would make the fire chief happy. Where,
And safety for the other people that are living
Right.
next door as well.
The
Things that make happy fire chief.
the argument to that would be the fire department doesn't inspect residential homes or three or less, they don't inspect. They could inspect 4 units or more, because those are considered commercial code, commercial building code, unless they choose to inspect them. But the building department does, from the rental side, go in these units and inspect them, as long as they let us in the door to
see, that
inspect
just
them.
opens up another door in my mind. Should we ask all multifamilies, regardless of bedroom size, to be inspected?
We ask, but they
But
are
should we put
allowed
it in the
to,
code?
they're allowed to
Say no.
opt out.
How
All
many,
landlords are able to opt out,
We've even had elected officials, and still do, opt out.
correct.
How many people opt out versus just accept an inspection anyway? Like, what's the loose ballpark figure for?
I would say
percentage?
maybe 20% now.
Okay, so most of them do get inspected, generally, though. So
They do,
20%
yes,
say
they
no.
do. We still inspect quite a few.
Appreciate that.
but I would think as a landlord even, like I would want my, whatever units I'm renting to be safe, stable,
You would think.
right,
See,
be able
this-
to last a long time, like having, making sure these are all in place, that's going to attract good tenants. I mean, I don't really see a negative to any of that.
Generally, the landlords that opt out, their units are usually well-maintained, and they're watched over by the owners.
Okay.
So those are the ones we historically didn't have issues with. The ones you would think they wouldn't care if they got inspected, but flip side, they said, I don't want you to, you don't need to, because we take care of them. And they, again, generally they do.
I know I did some inspections, shadowed inspections once, and there's some tiny places in this city.
And yeah,
I'm
you
like,
think even
wow.
400 square feet is a 20 by 20.
Yeah.
A queen-size bed is 5 feet wide.
And just
Use
to
space
point
for
out how complex this can be, I don't know where you found the definition of kitchen, but there's another one.
It's from the OHFA. This is what.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I'm looking, tying it to developers, builders, or whatever, being able to be eligible for the grants, to make
So-
it, and to incentivize building low-income housing.
So chapter 1470 has a definition, just so you know, that says kitchen means any room having a floor area of 60 square feet or more and used for the storage and preparation of foods and containing the following equipment: a sink or other device for dishwashing, a stove or other device for cooking, a refrigerator or other device for cool storage of food, cabinets and/or shelves for storage of equipment and utilities or utensils, and a counter or table for food preparation. So that's a pretty good definition. I don't know if it meets your standards.
So what I'm most concerned with is it meeting the OHFA standards?
Yeah, I
So
don't
it
know.
has, this just goes more into a quantified description of those things. So, for instance, it has the sink there too, but it has to have hot and cold running water. And so
But if
those types of
if we're
standards.
inspecting, we would require that.
Yeah.
We would require the toilet to flush, there's hot water, a place to bathe.
But
you know, those are-
here's another wrinkle. There's also a definition for kitchenette, which is not quite as
what I
expansive.
mean.
And I'm not going to
I'm
read it to you, but I'm just saying, yeah, you can pull your hair out trying to make these changes, and I understand because I've been in your position. My only suggestion is, I think that where you started with the minimum floor area, I think you've got that nailed, and that could be moved forward.
Okay, and definitely the one big addition that is that thing with the thing about the bedroom. If we're
Bedrooms,
gonna
yeah.
base it on bedroom, then
Yeah.
we need to have that.
But you've
definition of bedroom?
You've got a great
plugged,
framework
you've
there.
plugged that in, and I think what you've done, I would suggest, council, because you consider moving that
Absolutely.
forward, and then take another bite at the other stuff. You
And
know what
have the
I'm
law
saying?
director
Yeah,
go
and you're
through
gonna
the
need some
rest
help,
of it.
'cause-
Have
I
the,
will.
and tell him we want to move that part forward
Okay.
and to have it done for the council meeting, and the rest of it, to look at what you've done and have him make any adjustments and then bring it back to,
So does it stay on committee of the whole until I can meet with the law director?
not the one part. I would,
Well, no,
Not the
again,
square footage?
if you want to move just the multifamily square footage change.
Yes.
Or living floor, whatever, I think if council agrees, we can move that forward, and then the other stuff you just keep in your committee or however you want to handle it.
Okay.
Until it's closer to being.
I definitely want to move this forward, because I
Okay.
feel like I did make a commitment to the planning commission that I wouldn't
Yeah.
kick the can down the road on this.
With the
that-
definition of the bedrooms, with the
With
definition of
the
bedrooms.
with the definition of the bedrooms in there, considering that's like the basis of this entire change.
Right, and that's kind of where you started at.
and that's
Right.
important.
Yes, okay, and then the other stuff I can put back, the kitchen, because now I'm gonna be going off the deep end with those definitions. Okay, so this one is moving,
Forward.
we're gonna
Well,
move
is that the pleasure of the committee, to move just the minimum floor requirements forward?
Ordinance,
Ordinance.
Yeah, for that, yes.
not
Just
consent.
because,
Yeah,
we're
it's not
going to keep
consent.
it out of the consent agenda.
I agree with that.
All right,
All right,
let's move on. Number 8, ordinance addressing the Design Review Commission, also from planning. I helped you out a little bit there, Ms. Lodato.
I saw it, thank you very much for doing that, because like I said on the previous item, you're gonna see in a minute where all my energy went to for this meeting. So one of the things is I know that we had discussed some things about conflict of interest when it comes to, well, anybody, but we're talking about Design Review Commission. And it actually is considered Ohio best practices to have business owners that sit on architectural review boards and design review commissions. However, we did need I felt that the recommendations from the Ohio Ethics Commission, because as the guideline read, a person with a conflict would just recuse themselves from the vote, but we didn't have any language about recusing themselves from any other type of participation. So that was something that I felt that we should adopt the Ohio Ethics Commission guidance on vote recusal. The other thing has to do with that 1234.04, see that haunting of that period, which I think coincidentally, something like this came up this month, where there was not enough 2 times to meet a quorum. Mr. Selenius? Yeah. So this actually
Yeah, I
had
don't know the
had a
details.
real-world application, like that was right there.
So the first week, we did not have a quorum.
Right.
And then the meeting was called for the second week, and we did have a quorum.
Okay. So it was there.
Sounds like it was in compliance.
So the addition is if after the first meeting, no agreement is made with the applicant and the commission fails to conduct a second meeting within 2 weeks following the first meeting, the applicant may then appeal to council. So it's really just putting in, I think it's quantifying the time period. Instead of saying 2 separate occasions, it has it quantified at 2 weeks.
Yeah, so just to be clear, when the issue of the 30-day limit came up, when we changed this, we kind of did away with that because instead of requiring the commission to meet within 2 weeks of the application, we made it 4 weeks unless the applicant requested it to be 2 weeks.
Right.
So if the applicant doesn't request it, that's 28 days. If we kept the 30-day thing, then they'd have 2 days for a
Right.
second meeting. So this just clarifies if for some reason they don't meet, which they're required to meet, but if they don't meet, then it kind of fulfills that time limit anyway. It says, well, you had your chance to meet a second time, you didn't do it within the next 2 weeks. It's actually could be 6 weeks, but then you can appeal to the council. So I think that's the only sort of a fail-safe way to do it, in my opinion.
And I think it makes it like, business friendly, that if people are on a timeline or if they need to order stuff, that, they're the least amount of time if they need to get resolution on a matter sooner, that option's available. So those are the changes that I have. I don't know if people got a chance to read. I know at the last meeting, I had the actual guidance from the Ohio Ethics Commission. I know Dr. Kalfi had expressed interest in looking at the verbiage of the guidance from the OEC.
On this issue, the two changes that we have listed, I'm completely okay with the addition of 1234.04C4 to put that in. I do have a concern about the paragraph N and the limitations that it's putting on a member of the Design Review Committee who is bringing an issue to the design review. Our current language says that they shall not vote on any question before the commission in which they have an interest. This expansion of they shall not discuss, deliberate, lobby, or otherwise participate, I think removes from them the ability to process the application that they have in front of the Design Review Committee. Because as they approach the Design Review Committee, part of the process is them saying what it is that they're wanting to do and what changes or modifications, anything that they're wanting to do. This language is saying that they can't do that. They cannot participate in discussion or anything.
Yeah.
And as we review, as we look back at the ethics law about it, it says clearly that an official is not prohibited from applying to a public agency for regulatory change as long as he or she does not use his or her authority to secure the approval of his or her request. That language is okay to me, I believe, but to say that they can't discuss, deliberate, all of those, I think it goes too far. Now, I do understand where that language might have come from on the section that it says participate in. That language was part of, you know, what they shouldn't do. But when that meeting's taking place, what is the deliberation of the Design Review Committee, and what is the process of that person being able to say what they want to do? That's what I have a concern
So
about.
if it's a member of the committee that has, well, if they're an applicant,
Yeah.
wouldn't they be out there? I mean, why
But,
would you ever
no,
present that from up here?
Dr. Kelfi has a good point, but just so you know, I wasn't thinking along those lines. I was thinking that this only, the only thing I was thinking of is if they're on the commission and somebody who comes to present something has a conflict with them, not that they're the applicant. So maybe, but I agree with you. I mean, that makes it ridiculous that and it's likely that they could very well be an applicant, and maybe we need to readjust this somehow.
That's the way I was
Yeah.
looking at it, as if they were an applicant.
Yeah, no.
I do also believe that our language may be a little overly broad when we say any question in which he or she has a personal or pecuniary interest. A money interest, I understand. A personal interest, who defines that?
Well, that's actually the way it's written now.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
no,
saying.
yeah.
I didn't want to get into that. I didn't want to
Okay.
get into that I thought it was overly broad, but
I would agree with that, that personal is,
yeah.
What is
So,
that?
So if we change this, and right in the very beginning, if we put, except if the member of the commission is an applicant, in which they shall not be able to vote, then leave it the way it is. Would you be okay with that?
that's what I'd like to see happen, that they can fully participate if they're an
Except not-
applicant.
If they're the
Except not to
applicant.
vote.
Not to vote, yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
how about if I add that language and bring it, and we can either, again, wait until next month, or or I can plug that specific thing in pretty easily by the next
I would
regular meeting.
concur with that proposal, because I didn't even think of it from that angle. I thought about it
Right.
if there was, if somebody had some type of stake or investment, they weren't
Right.
the applicant.
Right.
That they could unduly influence a discussion, because all the rules say is that, hey, they just can't vote on it. So I would welcome that addition.
Okay, is that all right? I mean,
I'm okay with it. I just don't want the language that says they can't discuss or present, you know.
So if they're the applicant, you want to leave the language in that they still recuse from the vote.
right.
but-
Absolutely.
But that they would be able to participate.
Yes.
In the discussion and lobby
Yes,
on their behalf, participate, okay.
because that's what an applicant does when
Right.
they're there in
I
front of the.
didn't look at this from the point of view
commission.
that they'd be
Okay.
the applicant as well.
Okay, that's my only concern. Thank you.
Okay, with that adjustment to the first change in Chapter 1434, any other questions or concerns? Can we, what is the pleasure of the committee with regards to this?
Ordinance.
And once again, let's leave it out of the consent agenda so you can all see and vet whatever changes or whatever, that simple change is added. Okay, the next item is an ordinance appropriating additional funds for the Chestnut Lift Station project. So this came after our committee meeting from Mr. Finney. And again, since it's not coming out of a committee, there's no, he did provide a tracking sheet, but the tracking sheet is somewhat moot because the tracking sheet has to be accompanied by a vote by the committee. However, if you recall our process, one avenue for bringing something forward is a simple vote tonight. So I'll ask Mr. Finney to explain what we need to do. It's basically appropriating some more money for the consultant we've already hired to do some work, right?
Correct.
Go ahead, you can explain it better than me.
So last year, ordinance 2025-31 and 2025-32 authorized the city to use Water Pollution Control Loan Fund from the EPA to the tune of not to exceed $500,000. We've spent of that $175,850 so far, and we just need to appropriate another $300,000 to finish the project.
So we would still have $24,000 and some change left over in that loan fund, should we move this forward?
Correct. Yes.
Are there other questions?
So in essence, it was approved, it just wasn't appropriated. The money wasn't completely appropriated.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then can we get a motion to move this forward for a vote at the next regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, Ms. Greger is going to prepare an endorsement just to double-check this thing, and I will sign it, and if we can get 3 members after this meeting to sign it, that'll complete the requirement for getting this on the agenda. And did you want to, since it has been voted to move on, do we want to put it in the consent agenda?
Consent.
Consent.
All right, the next item is an ordinance approving the insurance renewal for Love Insurance. This is from our finance director, and I think you had some disappointing news to send us this afternoon.
Yes, Ed, I just got a message since we sat down here. I don't have the quote, but I do have, she's waiting, we should have it in the next couple days. She is expecting probably a 10% renewal increase just on her estimates, like what she's seeing, you know, in her field. So we'll see how that comes in. I told her I thought she was probably shooting too high, but we'll see.
At
And
this late date, we don't have too many options, right?
Right, so we do kind of need to move this along. I'll get the information to you guys as soon as I possibly can. Some of this we've been going through, I've been going through with Chris Bundy with some of his things and some of the newer department heads about how to insure things and what we need to insure and just getting information. But we've also been working on, part of the package is our drone package that we do. Our aviation insurance is included in this. We just bought another drone and getting those things and the licenses all in. There's a lot of tedious details that go along with this renewal. So I do apologize. Hopefully 1 year we can get this done quicker than later, but
I have a
insurance is
question.
not an easy category.
What did we project in the budget that the increase would be?
I'd have to look because it's allocated out to a bunch of different departments to see exactly, Carmen, but I'll look and see.
Because I know you're conservative, so.
Yeah, typically we just carry over what we had the previous year. Sometimes I'll add a little bit. I probably did not, anticipate. I do an August review of the budget, so I'll be at the end of August here, and I'll true up those numbers when we do that. Or I could add appropriations with the ordinance if I have it in time to be able to do that as well.
Well, are you confident we'll have something by, was it September 8th?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think she'll have something this week.
Okay. But be prepared, you might be seeing a 10% increase. It's not all that desirable. Questions about this? Concerns?
Is that more of an industry change that you're seeing for pricing
You know,
broadly speaking, or is
also-
it something that we've
I
done?
also asked them to give me a summary of why the increases, and I'll pass that information along. So you're going to get a summary of what is pushing the increase. There are additions, we do have additions, but, of course, that's going to up it a little bit. But what else pushes the industry?
Appreciate that.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
We will leave it off the consent agenda since we don't even have the
Yep.
contract. Next item is a resolution accepting the amounts and rates for the 2027 budget cycle. Also from Finance. Lawrence, I think this is pretty much housekeeping.
This is just a housekeeping item that we have to do each year. After the tax budget, we get the new amounts and rates for property tax, and it needs to get certified and sent back to the county.
Questions about this?
Is that a resolution or an ordinance? If it's a resolution on one side and ordinance on the other?
I do
I
think
was
it
just
is a
casual wondering.
resolution.
Well, when we get to number 13, we'll talk a little bit about that. And I think you saw a little message or an email from Mr. Semino about the same topic. Anyway, I guess we need to change that to resolution then? Okay. What is the pleasure of the committee?
Resolution.
Shall we place this in the consent agenda?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, the next item is an ordinance authorizing the execution of then and now certificates. I think in your packet we have one.
Just one, so
Yeah,
good month.
getting close to zero. And again, this is our monthly housekeeping, shoring up our accounting here. Anybody have any questions or concerns about this item? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance. Consent.
Consent. All right, that leaves us with the last item, which is not an action item. But this month, we did vote to engage with the law firm of, get this.
Ricker, Graydon, and
No, it's right on the
Wyatt.
agenda. Ricker, Graydon, and Wyatt. And what I would like to do, because we hired them for two purposes. One of them is to present a workshop on some of the issues that we often are confounded with, and to help them, because they're gonna customize this. To help them, I'd like to meet with the lawyer assigned to this workshop and give him the ideas that I think we need some clarification on. I sent out an email listing 5 items I'm interested in: public comment, executive sessions, when to use an ordinance and when to use a resolution, use of social media, and emergency clauses. These are things that often come up, are sometimes confounding for us, and I think it might help to have a law firm who deals, or at least this lawyer who deals with governmental bodies, help us, give us some guidance. But what I wanted to do is solicit from the rest of council what other things could be topics in this workshop. And hopefully you've had some time to think about it, and now would be a good time to let me know, and I will communicate those other things to the lawyer.
Please refresh my memory. When we talked about engaging this law firm for this workshop, didn't we have a major issue that we wanted them to talk with us about?
No. Well, we engaged with them for 2 reasons. One was to present a workshop, which I had talked about, like in the spring, about doing, and finding a law firm to, or not a law firm, but a consultant to come in and, like an outside point of view from somebody, an expert in the field. And then in the meantime, we were struggling with getting some guidance on data centers.
Yes.
So the engagement letter, and so, but they're two separate.
They are,
Yeah,
okay.
they're two separate issues. One lawyer, if you read the engagement letter, Jeff Harris, will be helping us with the topic at hand tonight, the workshop, and Amy Blankenship will be working with us on data centers. So, yeah, so, I mean, there could be some overlap, maybe if there are some concerns about data centers that,
Yeah.
you know, we need to address procedurally. That's certainly something we could incorporate in the workshop.
Because I thought that's originally what we were going into contract with them for, was for data centers only.
No, it's clearly was two
Yeah.
for both.
Okay, I was thinking it was just for the data centers.
Well, you know, I did reach out to Jeff Harris because he gave a presentation on some other related topic, a webinar, and we had a conversation. And at that time, I was interested in data centers, but it struck me that previous to that, I'd already mentioned to council that we were interested in a workshop, and the fact that I just experienced one with him, I thought I would ask him about that. So the engagement letter provides, it was approximating the services to be $8,000 for both.
Okay.
Not each, but total $8,000. But anyway, has anybody, I mean, did I comprehensively provide all the possible topics, or does others have topics they'd like to present?
So these are workshops the public's going to be invited to.
Yes, absolutely.
I think
And
the emergency clause one's very important because I think that's one that we get tasked with frequently. And I just think that's kind of poor language in the Ohio Revised Code. Because when people see the word emergency, I mean, they take it for face value, what it means. And under the Ohio Revised Code, it could just mean that we just want to enact something and don't want to wait. Like
Well-
accepting a grant.
And again, I always like to point out, the reason the state requires all ordinances to wait 30 days is to give our democratic process due process by allowing our residents to file petitions to object, just like our Constitution at the state level provides when they pass laws at the state legislation. But once we enable and approve an emergency clause, we wipe away our residents' ability to do that. And I think that's a concern I have.
Well,
is-
sometimes you can't help it, though,
No,
too.
no, there's
There's times you
there's
cannot
a-
help it.
There's a reason for the emergency clause, but the
Correct.
question is it, and I hate to use the word abused, but is it used inappropriately at times? And are we recognizing, and we're not the only ones. I've talked to other people in other cities, townships. It's a regular thing to apply an emergency clause. So don't think that we're an anomaly here. But I do think we have some due diligence to make sure we're not depriving our residents of a primary right that they have, just for expedience, right? If it's not a true emergency, we're discounting their ability to object to something, and I don't think that's fair.
Do you have public records on that list? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
I think
Public
that's something
comment.
to be wise to put in there, especially.
Public records?
Yeah, public
Yeah.
records, especially regarding the guidance that we can give to departments to make sure that they fully understand, like, what the nature of those requests are. Because I've even gotten different feedback from different department heads, like, is a verbal request a public record request? Under
Could be.
121.221, it is. But we need to make sure everybody knows that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the only addition I'd have is.
Oh, okay. All right, that's a good one.
I'd like to see some stuff also cover resolutions, because I know we do a lot of things to the ordinance tool as a function, but we don't usually lean into resolutions a lot as a legislative.
That's on the list.
Okay, just wanna
Well,
make sure.
it specifically says the difference between a resolution and an ordinance, but you want more of a.
A little bit of a deep dive on it.
Yeah, deeper, okay. I can communicate that.
Is there anything to help? I don't know if this is something that we can learn more about, but like chronic nuisance, property maintenance, anything that would help us in our ordinances, or maybe a procedure on how we handle things when we. Yeah, if there's best practices in some of the chronic nuisance that we have currently, and how we have that ordinance set up.
We could certainly ask about that. I don't want to get too, like, in the esoteric of our code and how things are written. It's more about process and behavioral issues and how we conduct our business. But I think it's, that's,
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's outside that realm, but I just don't want to go into too many, like tonight, like, can you tell us more about how to, craft planning code change? Maybe that's another
I'll
contract
teach
at some future time. But I'll make that part of the list.
Since Jeff, I don't know his last name. Harris, is an expert on governance, procedure, and those questions, might he not have also, as part of his general presentation, some things that we should look at and pay attention to?
I'm sure he does.
If this is his area of expertise, in doing it a lot, talking with people, maybe there's some things that he wants to caution us or let us know about. That's what I would ask.
Yeah.
So, okay, I will definitely ask him about that. And then as follow-up, I'll tell the council what the plan is. And, and he may have already decided some of the topics we're presenting are standard issues he always goes over. But if there are additional ones that are not on the list, I will certainly make sure everyone knows. And this is all transparent, and, it's not just for us necessarily. A lot of the things we'll be talking about, some of our boards and commissions and committees that are of administrative nature, like the Design Review Commission, could either attend, or maybe it's something we could record and ask them to view as well. So it's not just for council, but I think it's a good starting point that we think about what's important for us. Okay. Any other topics? Everyone got silent. Well, if you think of more, let me know. I will be in contact with him, and then if something else comes up, I'll add it to the list. Well, okay, so that concludes our meeting tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're done.
Speaking of which, I have a Zoom meeting with Matt Reed, finally. I'm going to meet with him first by myself Wednesday.
That's the area agency on aging.
Yeah.